Hello YouTube friends, Dustin Bellinger here, and been meaning to do a video like this for quite some time. I've done my Hall of Fame type collection showcase videos in the past, but wanted to do a more extensive video kind of going over all of the different type cards I have in my collection. And in order to try and keep the video length a little bit more manageable, I'm going to kind of break it down into shorter segments. So this one here, I'll be dealing with pre-1920 cards. Starting off with some of the oldest cards here in my collection. Card here from 1887 is from the Allen and Ginter set. They made a couple of multi-sport sets in 1887, 1888. In addition to baseball players, they also featured like uh, wrestlers and boxers and other uh, notable athletes of the time. Moving on to the Old Judge cards came out roughly the same time as the Allen and Ginter sets, and these are a very widespread. They're the the Old Judge card set is actually considered to be like the largest set ever produced just because there are so many different poses of the various players that were included in the set. So if you count each one as an individual card, it goes deep into hundreds and well over 1,000 actually different cards that were produced. Uh, it includes loaded with Hall of Famers and stars from the era. Uh, they're difficult to find in good condition because they're basically photographs pasted onto cardboard, and fading is very common, but they are some of the oldest and really one of the coolest baseball card sets ever produced. So here's my Deech postcard. 1907, this company produced a set of postcards featuring the two World Series teams, the Cubs and the Tigers. Uh, Seems like the set was more popular in Detroit because 1908, the set kind of appears again just featuring Tigers players, and they seem to have added some few other players that were issued in 1909 that were available as well. Moving on here to one of the earliest candy card issues from 1908 to 1910. American Caramel issued three different sets. For catalog reasons, they all get lumped together under one catalog number. It's kind of the way things go when these catalog designations were created 50 and 60 years after the cards were issued. It tends to be a little bit hit and miss and inconsistent in how those catalog designations were assigned. But this here is the 1909 set, or so type 2 or set B, depending on what your preference is. And as proud as I am of the depth and diversity of my collection, doing these videos really kind of illustrates to me just how little stuff I actually own and how much more there is out there for me that I could still strive to acquire. And this here is an E95, which was for the 1909 Philadelphia Caramel. This next issue here, the W555s, these were a bit of an unknown entity for a long time. Approximately a dozen or so years ago, it was discovered that these were cut from candy boxes when some complete ones were found in a collection. Mangini has a great video featuring these. If you want to look that one up, I highly recommend it. Probably one of the most revered card sets in history. The T206 or white border set. These were kind of an evolving set that started in 1909 and continued through 1911. I mean, these were mass produced during that time, like 1992 tops. I mean, these were everywhere and very popular. And, lots of them have survived over the years, but really it's kind of a small percentage when you consider the vast numbers of these that were created. These were issued in cigarette packs, uh, maybe 2 dozen. I can't remember the exact number of brands, back brands. I mean, a ton has been written on T206. If you're interested, there's lots of information to be found on it. All of the T206 I own are of the Piedmont 150 subjects add backs. Next here, I've got the E90. This was a set that was distributed for 3 years. In addition to this main set, they also had a couple of kind of regional sets that are under the same catalog designation but are much more rare. They were both produced in 1910. One was for just the Pittsburgh Pirates, and another one that just contains players from the Cubs and White Sox. Next, we have the Colgan's chips. These were packaged with these Colgan mint or violet chips. These were like round candy wafers, and they were the little circular cards were packaged in with those chips. There's a couple of different variations of different sets that can be found on these. Some with a border and some that are referred to as like tin tops that are a little bit different as well. With these here being the stars of the diamond ones being the most common. We've got the Sweet Caporal domino discs. These were distributed around the same time as the T205 that I'll be showing you coming up. Now these have 129 players in the set, but when you match up the different back variations, because they could have all sorts of different with this domino disc, different back variations. There's literally thousands of different combinations that can be found from this set. These here, the 1909 to 1913 Sporting News supplements, these would have been inserts, kind of like a mini poster. They're approximately 8 by 10 inside the Sporting News magazine that was distributed at the time. The cool thing with all of these is you can see the date that they were issued in the magazine when you find one. So all of these, I believe, are from 1909 or maybe 1910, one or the other. You saw the E95s earlier. This is the E96, also produced by Philadelphia Caramel. The Philadelphia Caramels from 1909, 1910. These were just great, beautiful looking sets. This one here, a 1910 anonymous set of 30, contains 30 cards in the set, but unfortunately it's kind of been lost to time as to who distributed these cards, and so they're just referred to as anonymous set. And Sweet Caporal also distributing these pins. These were kind of cool uh, little pin-on items of different players that feature similar portraits as what appear on the T205 cards as well. There are a few variations on these with the font that appears on the pins. Another great tobacco issue, 1911 Mecca cigarettes, often called the double folders. T201 is their designation. These cards were meant that you could fold them down, as you can see here. When it's folded up, it features picture Christy Mathewson, and when you fold it down, it would show an image using the legs, and then show a fielding Albert Birdwell or Bridwell. These here colored silks. These silks were distributed by a couple of different tobacco companies at the time. There was a set of white silks and a set of different colored silks like pink and green. Now, uh, these were attached to a backing that would display the advertising for the tobacco company. This particular one, the backing has been removed. These a lot of times were stitched together or used to sew different items. So find them with the backing still attached is pretty rare. In addition to the white border set, the gold border from 1911 or T205s. These are right up there among the more revered sets in the time. Really, these are just kind of second to the T206 when it comes to your tobacco issue sets. These all feature portrait images similar to the T206. They were distributed by various cigarette companies and display the ads of those companies. Uh, I've got a couple different ad backs on these, Piedmont, Tissan, and a Sweet Caporal, I believe. Although PSA doesn't put the ad on the flip for the T205s like they do the T206, which I really feel like if they were going to do it for one, they should have done it for the other. But PSA does what they want to do. This here's another magazine issue, the 1911 Sporting Life, obviously referring to the Sporting Life magazine. Rube Waddell. You can find these with the blue ink type on the back, or also the what they call black back, which is just with the black ink back. Another popular tobacco issue, the T207, sometimes called brown background. These once again feature a number of different tobacco brands, uh, only a couple, and not nearly the variety as with T206 and T205 as far as the ad backs on these. Here, the T202 are the San tobacco, often called the triple folder, and these had a picture in the center and then two end cards that folded in, descriptions on the back of each. This one, the main one I like because it's got three Hall of Famers pictured on it. You've got Fred Clark on an end panel, and you've got in the middle picture you've got Eddie Collins and Napoleon Lajoie. And next up here I've got a Canadian issue. This Imperial Tobacco, or C46 as it's normally called by its catalog designation. I always like to call things by the company that distribute it rather than just use a catalog designation. To me, it's more fun that way. And this card actually features Hall of Famer Joe Kelly after he had retired from Major League Baseball. He was up in Canada. He spent a lot of time with some other players from that era. It just didn't have anything to move on to after their major league playing days were over, so they kind of hung around being player managers, sometimes in the minor leagues, and in this case he was up playing in a Canadian league. These next couple are of different baseball card games. This one, very popular one from 1913, the National Game. And then in addition to the national game, there was also the Tom Barker baseball card game. It used the exact same images from the national game set, just had a different back to the back of the playing card. And from what I've seen, seems like the Tom Barker a little bit more difficult to find than the national card game. Another baseball card game from that same year was the Napoleon Lajoie card game, and that uh, game featured two decks of cards that all had Napoleon Lajoie on the back of them. One deck had a sepia blue tint, and the other had a sepia red tint, which was almost kind of a pinkish color. And this one obviously from the blue deck. Next up here, these are often called the B18 felts or felt blankets. Uh, I like to refer to them as they were the Egyptine straight cigarettes, as that was the company that distributed them. And similar to the silks, these were designed to kind of be sewn together or kind of incorporated into like a pillow or sewn onto something. And uh, these are definitely not too difficult to find, but very difficult to find in anything resembling, good condition. A set that has a lot in common with the T206 are the coupon cigarette cards, the T213s. Uh, these were distributed over a couple of different years, and it actually encompasses, once again, three different sets. This here is the Type 2, and there's the Type 1 and a Type 3 as well, that are all have different backs and slightly different attributes to the text on the front. Wrapping it up here, I've got one of the most rare cards in my collection. This is a 1916 Green Joyce. This is M101-4, and that catalog designation refers to Sporting News issue, as this that was the most common advertising back that you would find these cards with. Uh, the Sporting News ones and blank backs are relatively common to find. But there were also some other companies that used the same set images and had their own advertising printed on the back and used them. And Green Joyce, which was a large department store in, I want to say either I think it was Columbus, Ohio, or Cincinnati, I somewhere in Ohio. I want to say it was Columbus. I'm forgetting. It would have been basically like the Macy's store of Columbus, Ohio, and so obviously, would have only been distributed in that regional area, and so much smaller distribution than the Sporting News, which was a nationally distributed magazine. And uh, at the time I bought it, and I still believe it's probably the case, this was the only graded example of this card with a Green Joyce back. Really appreciate everybody that stuck around and listened to me ramble. I tried to keep it short and not go on too deep into any of these different card sets, but kind of highlight what makes them unique. If you're interested in finding out more about these card sets, there's a lot of great resources out there. Prewarcards.com, the Net54 uh, bulletin board community is a great resource, and Old Cardboard is another great website that has information on pre-war cards as well. Uh, If you've got something you think I might be interested, reach out to me. I'm always looking for new stuff. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good one.